Welcome to the Higher Ed Geek Podcast, where we explore the impact of EdTech on the student experience with engaging, fun, and relevant conversations that honor the wide range of work happening all across the higher ed ecosystem. I'm your host, Dustin Ramsdell. I've been working in and around higher ed for the past decade, focused on student support and digital experience. Join me every week for discussions with some of the best minds in education technology who'll be bringing you their perspectives on how digital transformation is reshaping the way we recruit, engage, and graduate learners. You'll hear firsthand accounts of how institutional leaders are developing their strategy, as well as get deeper on the stories of how these EdTech tools are being built to foster better student outcomes. With that, let's get to today's episode. Hey there, welcome to this episode of the Higher Ed Geek Podcast, episode number 341 with Leslie Gale from CampusESP. This was a fun one. We actually did it in person. The CampusESP offices are in Philadelphia, which is pretty close to me here in the great state of Delaware. This might sound a little bit different, but this was a really great conversation. I think us being in person allowed us to just riff and get into it a little bit deeper. But we based this conversation on recent survey data that CampusESP gathered together, which I always love to kind of just bring into conversations here on the podcast. Features more than 43,000 parent and family members as the respondents. So it really gets a really current kind of snapshot of how these institutions can just communicate better with these students and parents and families, and just kind of look at the whole kind of student pipeline and student experience and life cycle, make sure that these institutional leaders are leveraging these parents as partners, as Campus ESP likes to say. Just love them, love the work that they do, appreciate them for inviting me in and allowing me in their space to have this interview. It's a great one, episode number 341 with Dr. Leslie Gale. Excited to have the unfortunately rare privilege today of recording in person for this interview. We are in the offices of CampusESP, kind of friend of the show. We've talked to Dave, way back when, some other folks that are, I feel like, power users that I've met through some of your summits in the past and everything. But yeah, really grateful to be welcomed in here, being able to talk in person with Leslie Gale from the CampusESP team. Kick us off as we usually do, if you want to introduce yourself and your background, and then we'll get into just more about the work CampusESP does, because I feel like we have not gotten a proper elevator pitch and what's been happening in the past few years, but we'll go from there.
Yeah, glad to be here today. I'm Leslie Gale. I am the Vice President of Customer Success and Account Management here at CampusESP. I have been on the team for 8 years now and have really done pretty much every job that there is to do at a startup. And right now what I do is I manage all of our teams who kind of support our customers in one way or another. So as soon as you become a CampusESP customer, you're engaging with one or more of my team members. And I also come from higher ed, so a little bit of my background is that I have a background in student affairs, and my last job on a college campus was working at the University of Missouri as the coordinator for parent and family programs there. Obviously had a lot of relevant experience when I started, and yeah, just excited to be here today to talk to you a little bit about our most recent research. Yeah,
that'll be the crux of our conversation, some recent research, which I always love bringing into the space to kind of ground conversations about what's happening with real kind of firsthand insights and accounts and everything. But again, like I said, we haven't talked with someone from the team at CampusESP in a while, but talk broadly about the space in the whole higher ed ecosystem that you all play in. If you just want to briefly do like the elevator pitch of what CampusESP does in partnership with institutions, and then like you do have that rare vantage point of like how that work has evolved over the years. Yeah. And I think that'll tee up us talking about the survey of what's happening right now.
Totally. So CampusESP is your complete parent engagement solution. We work with over 450 colleges and universities across the country, a couple internationally, and have about 7 million active parents and family members in our platforms each year. That's one of the things that has been really cool to see grow over my time here. I still remember when we hit 1 million for the first time, and I think when I started there were about 35 partners across the country. And basically what we do is we create a platform, a web-based platform that is an all-in-one communication and engagement system for managing parent and family and now student engagement through a portal experience, email, text messaging, and now an AI assistant as well. And yeah, that has been something that we've really evolved over the years in terms of what phases of the parent and family life cycle we've supported. And then now we're expanding into some student orientation experience as well. When I first started, we basically supported schools who were looking at current families only. So really just doing your engagement and communication with family members of currently enrolled students. We also at that time, some of our very early customers, including customer number 1, Tarleton State University, was also supported through our FERPA management system, which allows them to provide a secure and FERPA compliant system to manage parent and family access to FERPA protected information, which at that time there was really like nothing happening. There was even very little proxy service options out there. And there was a lot of stuff going on with parents logging into their children's accounts, and schools were looking for a solution for that. And that was one of our initial kind of modules that we had. And then over the years, we have really been responsive to our customers and their needs in terms of the different ways that schools are trying to engage parents and families in that college journey. So the next big thing that we did was start working with folks in the enrollment space, because as the generation shifted, and especially post-COVID, as students became, I think, even more reliant on their parents and family members for support during that process than we had ever seen even before. Schools really needed a way to leverage those parents and families and make them a part of that process so that they can help ensure students complete all their next steps. The bottom line is students are bad at email, especially in high school, but even in college. But parents check their email. They are going to be much more useful to an institution in terms of getting information out about next steps and what needs to be done to ensure that the student. That's where we expanded next. That was our next big evolution. And then the other things that we've evolved into, again, with our customers as they've expanded what they do, would be working with more two-year partners. So two-year colleges, of course, have a completely different model where they have some dual enrollment families, they have some full-time undergrad families, and then, of course, they have non-traditional students as well. But we support them with those kind of first two populations where it's a continuous both enrollment and like enrollment cycle is what they're needing support with. And then the other cool thing that's been coming up in recent years is schools that are starting to do more with family giving, because once you get more sophisticated in your family engagement strategy, families can really be a big pool for institutions who are looking to fundraise. They really are more tied into the school where their child attends than their alma mater often. And so that's been another big point of evolution at CampusESP.
Yeah, and I appreciate sharing a lot of that context. I feel so much of it is almost like the story and the journey that higher ed has been on, just like as we have continued over the past several years, approaching in this moment now with the enrollment cliff, that being like, okay, let's use all the levers at our disposal to try to manage that process and make sure students are getting a successful start, and then obviously maintaining and persisting and retaining all that. But yeah, I know because prior episode with Amy Swank from University of Oregon was a little bit more on that parent giving side. So that was always just really, I remember in one of the past summits, our speaking, that was just like mind blown of just like, and it also made a connection back to my alma mater, University of Delaware, because they had this like super active parents council, and I was just like connecting all the dots and just being like, oh, okay, yeah. Because I think, it's that idea of even now, and I think this has been something that has existed for quite a while, is having young kids and daycare and whatever else, like they communicate with parents and they're like managing that kind of stuff. And the idea of, certainly with traditional age students, the idea of like continuing that norm, but also that idea of like having things be like baby steps, like not having it have to be so hard, or like just throwing people into deep end where your prefrontal cortex is not fully developed. Like you haven't had to like manage all this kind of stuff all at once. So it's time well spent and resources well invested, I think, to just, because I'm kind of, one of the sort of taglines that I've seen you all use, like parents as partners kind of thing, like as many sort of partners in the support system and just for like the structures and communication that can be leveraged for today's learners. I think it's that storyline that I feel like I've followed is the idea that like retention or whatever else is either like, the idea of, hey, it's too complex, or I don't know, there's so many variables, like what can we really do about it? Or it's kind of taken for granted, or it's like, hey, we've built all the support all the information's on the website or whatever else, like we've built it, the students will come if they need it, right? Or like all these sort of notions that I think have eroded, where it's like great that you have, they might have institutions, I'm sure that you've all interacted with have offices of parent-family engagement or orientation or whatever else, but they may be left kind of scratching their heads of why aren't they like doing things, or there's got to be a better way than like, parents logging into their students' accounts to like, do stuff or whatever. That's a lot of interesting stuff. And I guess something, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, just as a brief follow-up before I kind of tee up us talking about that college family survey report, you all have done like this sort of research and interaction, because I think, again, it feels like such a unique, distinct place. I don't think a lot of other people are necessarily really doing this sort of deeper dives into doing this sort of research. So I guess using this follow-up to, set up the next question, if there's a history of this family survey report, and then just talk about how this year's one was like developed and how you all approached it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So honestly, research on what families are expectations are and what their preferences are has been a part of Campus ESP since the very beginning. So even since before we had customers, Dave, our founder, started out by really looking into what is this new generation of parents looking for and what are their students doing that they need support with. And so we've been doing some version of research for over 10 years now. This family survey we've been doing at least 5 years. I want to say we actually started doing it in like 2019, but it has had a couple of different evolutions over the years. And we also do one, so the one we're going to talk about today is research on our current families. So surveying them about their preferences, their expectations, the different information that they're looking for, and their satisfaction with the institutional support that they get on those topics. And then we also do one on prospective families as well that we've been doing since 2022, I think. Yeah, we have more data, I think, probably than anyone on just the preferences and expectations of actual parents.
Seeing the change over time and stuff too. I think that's because like sometimes we'll be like, oh, we did the thing and it's cool to get that sort of snapshot or whatever, but it's, no, keep doing it. I want to see how this changes over time. So it's good on you for doing that.
There's definitely been some evolution there. Yeah, that's been really cool to see. And certainly like the COVID pandemic really shifted some of this, I think, for both parents and their students. And so it's been really helpful to have that history to see where the tides are turning so that we're able to provide really good recommendations for our customers. It's also helped us figure out like internally what we might need to build or change about Campus ESP so that we are being responsive to their needs as well. So yeah, it's been really cool to see the history over time. And I'm a big data nerd. Something I didn't mention up top is I actually do have my PhD in educational leadership. I probably should have said that, but
we'll put respect on your name and the episode title and stuff.
I forget sometimes because I finished it after I left higher ed, but you still don't lose that love for, I think, just like knowledge and learning. And so, yeah, I love like digging into this every year. It's always really fun.
Yeah, there's a commitment to this work and the passion for it is very clear. And I think, again, the respect and the appreciation, folks like yourself who love the data and love digging in with it, because obviously not every organization or a tech company or whatever that works in the space does it or does it super consistently, whatever. But I think the whole field benefits just having the kind of tangible kind of foundation to base conversations, to base their strategy on, certainly institutional leaders, your peers and folks that you work with, or whatever, versus it just being anecdotal or maybe, just outdated or any of those sort of things. So we'll just put it up front here. We'll have links for folks to check out this full report. A lot of good stuff in there. We'll focus in on a certain component that really caught my attention. You titled this section, Accessing Information and Navigating the College Experience. That's certainly a lot of my background, kind of student support, and I worked in a residence life and those sort of things. So I wanted to zero in on that. It brings up some clear, actionable steps around how institutions can manage their digital presence and communication. So just talk a little bit more about that. Like, what does the data tell you around? Because I think, like the thing that I think is most emblematic of the wrong way to approach this is the cumbersome, overstuffed website and all that. So what does the data tell you about that, about websites and how institutional leaders might be able to better utilize and cater their content to parents and families?
So first, let me back up just a minute to give a couple of the stats on the survey itself for this year. So this year we had over 43,000 responses to this survey across our customer base. And it really is spread out in terms of institutional size and type, location, race, ethnicity of the respondents. So in the full breakdown too, you can see all of that demographic data. And we do a lot of splitting out of the data too, because I think that's super important as we've seen demographic shift in higher ed to understand like where those shifts are happening and making sure that we are responding to the new needs of this new generation of parents. So that's this year's kind of baseline of where we're starting from. But as I mentioned, one of the things we always ask families about is just, what information are you looking for, and how easy is it for you to find it yourself, or how satisfied are you with what the institution sends you at this point? And I think, it's really fascinating to think about because, again, most schools feel like they've done a good job of creating their digital presence, putting their information out there for students and families. But in our study, we found that a third of families find it difficult to find information on the website. That's a really big number. And I think I always used to joke when I worked in parent and family programs, a big part of my job was basically just finding the information on the website. Here, let me Google that for you. But it wasn't just a Google. That was why they were calling, because they couldn't easily Google it and find the information. And so that's one of the things that we just really recommend, that because we know what information is most critical for student success and things that might be changing on campus or important resources, it's on us to make sure that we're putting that in front of parents so that they don't have to go looking for it themselves.
This episode is brought to you by Bolt, the AI agent engine for higher education, built by Element 451. Here's the thing about higher ed right now. Your team doesn't have a software problem. They have a bandwidth problem. Prospects go unanswered, students don't get the support they need, and your best people are burning out trying to close the gap manually. Bolt fixes that. It deploys specialized AI agents into the systems you already run, whether that's Element 451, Salesforce, Slate, or anything else, to actually do the work that's been falling through the cracks. Answering student questions, evaluating applications, surfacing risk signals, engaging prospects, around the clock, nights, weekends, and every break included. It's not a chatbot bolted into your CRM. It's not another generic AI layer. It's purpose-built for the higher ed student lifecycle, with SKUs for admissions, marketing, and student success. If you've been wondering how AI actually shows up and does the work instead of just answering questions about it, that's Bolt. Learn more at element451.com. Yeah, it's the whole sort of the right information at the right time, and certainly sometimes in the right modality, how they might prefer to get it and things like that. But yeah, I get it. There's a part of this, I guess, is a brief follow-up. The idea of like, we have the content, how should maybe we utilize or cater it? The idea of the passivity of, okay, we've put everything on the website, it's there, and maybe we've updated it, like we've done something. But then you just sit back, the students and their parents and families are going through, checking off the tasks, the kind of boxes of things in the enrollment process or whatever it might be. But again, it's the idea of, I can't find a thing, or I don't even know what I don't know kind of thing. Like, but yeah, like the institutional leaders, folks who are doing this work, it's like, you do know better what the person should be doing at a certain time, so that you can anticipate those questions, be proactive, and not just waiting off at the sidelines to have that question be asked. So I think it's, that idea of that sort of one piece of the step is just trying to flip the script of being just like reactive. And again, and that's good to be like responsive to the questions that come in. There will always be questions, but you would hope that they're questions that, aren't just easily answered through like a Google search or something. But, and I guess there's something else there too, of the idea, like the utilization, the catering of the existing content, where there might be kind of collisions or frictions where it's like, I can't update the website, or I can't make everything better organized because somebody else owns the website and that sort of thing. Yeah, just any reflections on that, because the idea of like, that somebody would say there is existing content that answers the question. Yeah. We're just trying to figure out the better way to kind of get it in front of people. Do you see sometimes that institutional leaders are having that friction, or trying to figure out like those kind of problems?
Totally. And we've seen them be responsive, I think, even to the data in these reports year over year. When we first started doing this, one of the areas that parents were looking for information on but struggling to find it was things like costs, tuition, like logistical things about how to pay the bill and that sort of thing. And we've really encouraged our customers to lean into those topics, as boring and basic as we might see them. Those are really important to parents and families. And so we have seen some increases in satisfaction on those topics. So cost and tuition was one that we've seen go up. Another one that is like very basic is the academic calendar and deadlines. Again, these are things that, like, when you think generationally and like independence and just maturity level of college students, they don't even really understand sometimes what these different deadlines might be or how important it is for them to know about them and put them in their calendar. They don't keep a calendar yet. So parents and families are super influential in reminding them about these deadlines and being like, don't forget, like next week is the deadline for registration, so you have to go see your academic advisor. Having that sort of information is really helpful for families, and we've seen those topics increase in satisfaction over the years, which is really good. I think it's great to see our partners be responsive. And again, some of that, it's just pulling out the pieces that as a staff member on campus, you know these deadlines. They are in your face all the time. Maybe you even get like a weekly email with reminders of these kind of things. Maybe you have a magnet or a piece of paper sitting on your wall with all these. So it's in front of you all the time. And so just being like thoughtful about, oh yeah, these are the things that we also need to make sure we're putting in front of parents and families is something that has been really great to see evolve, I think, as more and more folks have been getting this research and being responsive to what their families are looking for.
Yeah, and that's like bold circle underline the idea of underestimating like those sort of like simple, boring things, like how important it is to get a quick, clear response, like when you need it. Because I think just as with a lot of things where many people are earnestly trying to do the right thing, meet the deadlines, do what's expected of them, but they're just hitting barriers and frictions and all that. And I think I always think in metaphors, whatever, like I think most websites, it's that idea of everything is like given equal weight or whatever, or it's like a whole bookshelf of like pages. So it's like, they're all just sitting on the shelf and you don't know, okay, I'm looking for this thing. And you have to like scroll and be like, which menu of submenus of this is probably going to be in and that sort of thing. And then even if you're doing Google searches, it's the guesswork of I have to search it this way to actually find the page, or is it even searchable? It's not indexed. Yeah, or like things like that to where, and that's even on the other side where like earnestly, the folks in the parent and family office or whatever else, they might be, like I said, hitting that friction where they don't have like full ownership over the websites or they don't realize some of those pitfalls or different things like that. But I think, sometimes that idea of, again, the anecdotal or outdated assumptions that people might have about what is the information that people actually care about. So it's not even about, we'll do away with anything else that like isn't showing up, but it's the idea of, oh my gosh, I guess we're underestimating the urgency, the importance, and the idea that, we're not really putting the emphasis on those simple, basic things that are going to remove hurdles for those students and everything. So, because otherwise, it might be, there's other sort of tertiary things that are not like crucial, required kind of things, whereas yes, we would love to make sure that students know about all the offices and all the clubs and all the other kind of stuff, but it's like, that's what I'm taking away from it is like that, again, like there's this like equal kind of weight to everything, but like the right information in the right time. And I guess as another kind of follow up on this, like in the right modality and everything, is I wanted to talk about like that idea of the information is existing. It's on the website. We've talked about the clutter there and some ways to better approach that perhaps. And I think one way is just better outreach. It might be using like texting or whatever else, or just removing all the irrelevant information. So the idea of like they would come to the portal and know that everything I need is there kind of thing. So just speaking to that, of that idea of it is the catering of the content, the modality of outreach, or just how you're molding and shaping what it is that's being presented to the students and parents and families and that sort of thing.
Yeah, asking them about method of communication is something we've also done for several years now. And we've definitely been seeing a growing increase in the need for text message communication for families. Email is still the top preferred method of communication, I will say. And then obviously we see a lot of positive response to the portal itself and families relying on that as a source of information. But text messaging is something that has really been growing year over year. When you look at like the class year of what their students are, it's going to keep growing. So one of the questions we ask is, what year is your child going to graduate? So for the class that just graduated, their preferences for text messaging was 42% of them said they prefer text messaging. The class of 2030, it's up to 54%. So that's a 12% increase. So we are really seeing that just grow year over year, and I don't anticipate that's going to change. We're starting to see millennials as college parents now, which as a millennial does freak me out a little bit, but it is real. I have high school and college classmates that have kids who are searching for schools or in college now, and while we are very email capable and we do actually check our emails still, text is really going to get our reaction. And so what we always recommend for our customers is that there's some types of information that you want to just have in your recurring communication that you do, which is for us is a newsletter, like maybe more advice and information that is ongoing, just updates about what's happening on campus, opportunities for students to get involved, that sort of thing. Anything that is like a deadline or a critical reminder, you want to send out over email. And then from that list, you probably want to send a text message to, in our system, you have to be opted in. So to anyone who's opted in for text messages, if you're sending an email about a specific topic, like reminder of this deadline, even things like registration for events that are for families, like family weekend, it's worth just putting a very short version of that in a text so that because texts have crazy high click rates on them too. So if you're sending a link to something, that is a surefire way to get people's attention. Yeah, like it's 3 times higher click rate on text than via email, which is crazy. Yeah, definitely. We always recommend thinking about the type of information that you're sending and using those different methods smartly so that you're getting all that information out, but not giving everything the same priority level, right? There's different topics that require different levels of priority to put it in front of folks.
Yeah, even just because, email is like a utility that people need emails to create accounts and other stuff. So it's like, it's not going anywhere. But then that there is a lot of staying power with, I think nowadays, people subscribing to newsletters that curate things and organize it and present it in a way that it's very skimmable and those sort of things are what you're most looking for. But I think, so there's, that place of sending good email, versus just like, we email, we just inundate them with a bunch of stuff that's like hard to tell what it is and if it's relevant to me or whatever. But then, that acknowledgement of the right message in the right time, the right modality. Somebody who has not done something for a while, the text is going to have more urgency around that to nudge them or, being more timely for action. Because I think a lot of us probably get text messages about bill reminder. That idea of like, hey, this is due in 3 days. It's like, oh yeah, that's right, cool. But it's like kind of getting to you in a different way where it's like, oh yeah, I did see that email with my statement. I did see that email with whatever else. But it just gets in front of you in a different way. Because I think with a lot of different tools and platforms, that idea, they would love if you download their app because we can send you push notifications and different. That idea of we need to leverage a variety of ways to get information to people. Because I'd imagine even sometimes too, because I think like enrollment teams, they're trying to kind of move all the levers and knowing that, work with them as well. The idea of like, sometimes there is a place for sending the snail mail or whatever like that. Because I think in that instance, it's like, it's going to be super effective if you can send something that is like personal or like I did like a thing where it was like alumni doing handwritten notes to like legacy students or something. Like those things can be those like high impact kind of practices. But because I think it really is like one of the core problems being for a lot of institutions, the website has just really been overclocked in terms of it's like public-facing information for any human being on earth that wants to know who we are, but it's also for prospective students who might want to see it, but it's also for current students, and it's also actually for alumni, and it's also actually for us recruiting employees. So I think we're in an era of that where depending on where maybe the pain points are for an institution, they're making movement in one direction versus another. But I think, even just from what you're saying, that you maybe historically were predominantly working with the four-year institutions and traditional students, but now starting to get the dual enrollment at the community college or this, that, the other. It is that idea of this work. I think it just has a universal value to some extent of like, obviously going to be, I think, a little contoured a little bit to each of those different contexts. But just really exciting to see. And I think there being, like kind of the dual mandate here of make sure you have all the information, the content existing, and then thinking strategically, about that outreach.
And I don't anticipate that schools are going to get rid of the content that's on their website, nor would I say that they should. But I think what's really important when you think about parents and families especially is that we can really help guide them to the things that are most important, and we can also frame it in a way that is for them. So that's something that is always really important to us, is to make sure that we are giving them information in a language that is like, it's for them. They're not reading something that is clearly for an alum or for their student. They're reading it written to them as parents. And one of those things that we didn't get into yet, but is like a topical area that I think we're going to be really focused on helping our customers get more parent-specific content on in the next couple of years, is the area around post-grad outcomes, so job placement, and career services, I think this is probably one of the next waves of a little bit of a shift in how we engage parents and families. I think when I first started here 8 years ago, my perspective would have probably been that by the time a student gets to their senior year and they're doing the job search, we want them to be more independent. So we shouldn't handhold the parent too much. Make sure they have the basic info, but you don't want to overly encourage their involvement in that process. But that, I think, has totally shifted in the last 8 years. And some of this is also a result and a reaction of the macro environment that we're in, with the economy shifting, it being harder to get a job, just being more important that they get a job because they're spending more and more on their education. And so they want to know, and they want to know earlier, how do I set myself up for that future job success? Students want to know that, but they don't really know where to start. So parents and families are also really looking for that information earlier and earlier so that they are being a part of that support system in that process for their child as well. And that's something where I think it's going to take a bit of a mindset shift, I think, in higher ed to say, yeah, we are going to actually give parents information on this, because that's a little bit of a new thing that we have maybe tried to still keep them out of. But the fact of the matter is they are just going to be involved. And so what we can do is give them the right information, and information that's also coaching them, right, about, I always say, like, how to be a parent of a college student, right? So not just saying, here's the resources, but also saying, as a parent, you can really help make sure that your child has access to the career services within their academic units, that they know who to go talk to on campus. There's all these services available to them. Encourage them to do that, because those are great services that universities are definitely still providing. Those have not been cut. Career outcomes are still very important on a college campus. Yeah, we definitely just need to, I think, bite the bullet and start giving parents a little bit more information on those types of resources and on the type of job placements even that graduates get, so they can envision what the future is going to be for their child. That's a part of that recruitment even at this point. Honestly, 17-year-olds are surprisingly practical, thinking about what their job is going to be when they graduate college. I certainly had no thoughts of that when I was going to college. I was just like, oh, I'll get a job. I don't know what it'll be, but it'll be something. But now they are really thinking about what those are going to be. So yeah, if we can share that information with families as well, it can be a powerful recruitment tool, and then obviously a success, put them on the path to success once they're enrolled.
Yeah. I think it's a really good call out. Partially a prediction of, see where the puck is going kind of thing. That is definitely a trend line that has been ratcheting up around, I think, career services being, certainly, again, it's like we built it. We presume that they will come to us, the students, and that the experiential learning and getting internships and all that, like, it's the importance, I think, has been uplifted, the acknowledgement of the competitiveness and the limitations, as like you need to go about it in a smart way. The earlier, the better. And then, the sort of public scrutiny around institutions and, the changing, like there's this confluence of events that I think, like being able to better integrate information to folks like on your all's platform, I think will be good. And I think, just for institutional leaders to be aware of that, where that would be this sort of huge value add, like you said, like across the board, as they're determining where they're going to study and what they're going to study with their student. And then, while they're enrolled, making sure that they're aware of the different resources and stuff. And I guess one thing too, because I think we didn't really mention it specifically, but as we're wrapping up, I want to make sure, because I think the idea of the sort of like the personalization piece and those sort of things, my understanding too is I think the idea of being able to like assign roles, of knowing, okay, your student is the class of, 2029. So that idea of like, it is time well spent for the institutional leaders to be, again, that sort of right information, right time kind of thing, presenting information and acknowledging. Because I think, again, it's that idea of equal weight put to graduation information when you just are entering kind of thing. It's no, we need like you thinking about these things at this time, and a way to get there is to kind of bring folks into the fold, into that platform, so that you can think strategically about how nuanced you might want to get with it. I think a lot of these platforms you can, I think, go nuts sometimes with, okay, your graduating year and your major and this and that, the other. But if you can kind of get like a couple of big ones, and it is that idea of, okay, if we're presenting career services information about internships, we might want to say, hey, here's some marketing internships that you might want to look at, or, you know, an event that you might want to attend or anything like that. Because I guess my brain is thinking we've identified a lot of the problems and I think some of the solutions, but I think that is also one way that's sort of like as a catalyst to hypercharge those solutions of the right information, the right time, right modality, is thinking through, okay, yeah, we do want to contour that audience a little bit to segment things. Definitely. And then obviously, being like very acknowledging of, hey, parent, like this is for you. And I love the whole sort of like how to be a good college parent, because I think also like people nowadays are like a lot of like self-help stuff or whatever, just wanting to be like, how should I go about this? What should I do? They want to do that deep dive and stuff and earnestly do the best job that they can and stuff. So I think, even that idea of it's not just what's happening at the university. It's like a 30,000 feet view of like, okay, we're going to personalize information to parents, which can look like meta, hey, you are a college parent. Like, how can you do that better? That's so helpful, I think.
Yeah, and we always recommend integration with a CRM or SIS so that the parent data that's in CampusESP is connected to obviously what year the student is, what major field of study they're in, if possible, and then other pieces like, are they a first generation student? Sometimes we'll have alumni status too, just to continue to customize the content for families. But those first couple of pieces of information are super relevant given just the different phases of the college journey and what can be expected. It's really important for us that we move families through that workflow each year so that they're seeing different information that's really relevant to them at the right time and speaking to their needs. Yeah, that's something that I think is very valuable to our partners, but also to families themselves, that they are getting actual personalized information. They're not just getting a giant newsletter that has 50 things in it that could, because there's so many things when you think about the whole spectrum of what some parents might need to know about, they're seeing the things that are most relevant to them.
Yeah, and I feel another big one would be like if the student's on campus or like that's a huge kind of distinction. And then like
on campus. I think we have a couple schools who even will import things like Greek life participation so that those offices can share information about what's going on there. Yeah, definitely on-campus housing. There's so many different things you could put in there to make their experience more personalized and just provide better advice to them, basically.
Yeah, because I think it's the idea of, again, the sort of like earnest desire to, by institutional leaders, like trying to solve these problems and better cater to their audiences and stuff, that it's, one good step to kind of have a platform and all that. But it's, nowadays there is that kind of expectation that people have of like the personalization and everything. I think that is also just important acknowledgement. But we will wrap up with our final question that we always like to end with: advice that you would give to other higher ed leaders navigating this moment.
Yeah, obviously I would say hang in there because it's just super turbulent. That's not going away. But I also think one of the things that I would say in the context of the conversation we were just having is to really remember and not shy away from the importance of a college education and the value that it brings to an individual's life and the ROI that is there. Like that is research backed, that having a college degree is going to benefit you long term in your life. So remember, that's why we're doing this, is to help young people have a better life. And so let's not be afraid to tell families that too, right? Like when college is getting a bad rap in the news, it's okay to fight back at that and say, no, actually, this is a great place for growth and development, and it's going to set your child up for success. Yeah, don't be afraid to really stand firm on that. That's why we're all in this industry, is because we believe in that. So, yeah.
That is good advice, good rallying cry, motivating folks, getting inspirational and stuff. Because I think it is that you have that conversation and you can be a part of your student's success, parents, because I think, there might be this sort of resignation of they can't help or not in the way that they want to or whatever else. So I think, it's that idea of embracing a student support system, like trying to harness that potential, because it's like, this is an important investment. This is going to be valuable. And we want to help you help your student maximize all the opportunities that are available to them. There's so many positive byproducts for the institution of really engaging in this work with a lot of intentionality. So just really appreciate you. Appreciate all the folks at Campus ESP just hosting us here, and ways to connect with you and Campus ESP and the research report in the episode description. But yeah, it's great talking to you.
You too, Dustin. Thanks.
Thanks for listening to the Higher Ed Geek podcast. This show is a proud member of the Enrollify network, home to Higher Ed's largest collection of podcasts. Enrollify is where higher ed goes to grow. So be sure to check out our other podcasts, webinars, video clips, blogs, and more. Visit Enrollify.org and subscribe for all the latest details and content drops directly to your inbox. Enrollify is brought to you by Element 451, the digital workforce platform for higher ed. Learn more at element451.com.